Dustin Tomaso here with Chris Gold.
Hey, everybody.
And Chris, this is the first episode from my new apartment.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're finally all settled in, living in a big fancy mansion, two driveways. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the JT that's embroidered on your front lawn.
Yeah.
It was really impressive.
Definitely lost a few, maintenance men putting that together, but hey, it was worth it.
Listen, for the way it looks, their lives were certainly expendable.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're in your fancy new place, living with Butch, and as of later today, as we were recording, Zool is also going to be moving in, so that's going to be cool. You'll finally have Oaf House all set up.
Yeah, it's definitely good to be back. We got to explain, I guess, a little bit of how things have been kind of busy for both of us, and unfortunately, we could not put out an episode last week, and then recently before that, we had to skip a week as well. So, we're kind of bummed about that, but sometimes things get in the way, and it's just kind of too hard to squeeze in. But we are back with a new episode. Starting today, it's our new release day of Tuesdays.
Yes, going forward to just to kind of help us accommodate our schedules a little bit more easily. We feel like that releasing on Tuesdays going forward is just going to be a little bit less wear and tear on the both of us.
Right, and a small milestone. This is episode number 50.
This is episode 50. Yeah, I can't believe it, man. We're chugging right along.
Yep, and what are we going to do this episode? Well, this week, Nintendo dropped a Direct on us that I had been so busy, honestly, I didn't even know was happening until Chris texted me that it was happening in about 10 minutes. And they released a lot of crazy stuff, some really surprising stuff, and, maybe some familiar stuff too. And we're going to talk about most of that later on today.
Right. Well, just going to discuss a lot of the things, a lot of the surprises, and some of the other items that came out in the Nintendo Direct. Some things that overwhelmed us, other things that underwhelmed us, and the things in the middle that just simply whelmed us.
Whelmed, yes. Sleek little whelm.
Yep, just a sleek little whelm, right in the gut.
But before we do that, it has been a few weeks since our last episode, which means plenty of time spent playing games. Chris, what are you playing?
Justin, I'm glad you asked, because I've been playing quite a bit since the last time we recorded. First one I'm going to talk about is I had the deluxe edition of the game, so I decided to download and play the bonus episode Farewell to Life is Strange Before the Storm.
I am frustrated to hear this because I did not buy the deluxe edition unknowingly, knowing that you can only get the bonus edition of Farewell by buying the deluxe edition, so I will be playing it over your house at some point.
Yes, you have to come over and give it a shot. It honestly does not take very long at all to play the bonus episode. Give yourself a couple hours or so, and honestly, you can get through the episode easily. Like, you know how when you play a lot of the other episodes, even like Before the Storm or in the original Life is Strange, they take, like, if you dedicate yourself and you give yourself like a good solid day, you might be able to play through a full episode. Honestly, you can just get through this in no time at all. So it's not really a big time commitment. What's most exciting is this has this features the return of Max to the series, and not just her, but her voice actress and Chloe's original voice actress. That was Hannah Tell, who voiced Max, and Ashley Birch, who voiced Chloe.
Yeah, that's really surprising. I know the voice actors strike ended, and I bet Ashley was really excited to get back to doing it, and Hannah as well. And, they were fantastic together in the first game, so it's pretty cool to have them both back together for this DLC.
Right. It was really nice to have the two of them return just one last time because, like you said, in the first game, those two had amazing chemistry together, and you can really feel a lot of that chemistry come through in this version. The story again, as we mentioned before, our spoiler cast.
Yeah, if
Last
you haven't
episode,
got enough Life is Strange from our almost 3 hour episode last time, here's some more.
yeah, here's some more Life is Strange. Yeah, too bad. We're big fans, but yeah, without getting into spoilers, it's virtually impossible to actually discuss the games themselves. So I will say, like, it features Max and Chloe during a time where they were both kids. They were kind of carefree, and they're just kind of going through, and they're just having a day together where they're just being friends and being themselves, and it's just like there's just sort of a bittersweet feeling you get watching them, like they're like having fun together, they're just being goofy together and laughing and having fun, and you just know, like, how the story ends up eventually, and you just can't help but look on this and just feel sad, and like, oh, like, what could have been,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. The story is both fun and serious in the ways that the Life is Strange series can be at times. Chloe and Max are both really well written. They're the same Chloe and Max we've come to know and love. The voice work is really good, although it's it's kind of interesting. Like, I guess Hannah and Ashley both were directed to make themselves sound younger, because the characters, I think, are around like 13 or 14 years old during the time that Farewell is set. And I don't know, it just sounds a little unusual to hear the more adult voices, but they're like a little bit higher pitched, and a little bit like, they talk much faster than they usually do. The way that teenage girls usually talk, in that strange language that they communicate with one another.
Yeah.
It's really, really well done. It was a lot of fun just getting to see these characters again, and yeah, it was a good, for lack of a better term, I don't mean to use this, it's a good farewell to this.
All right.
To
I'm
those
so
story
sick of
and
your
these
Life
characters.
is Strange puns. It's disgusting.
Hey, you can't get enough of the Life is Strange puns. All right, the people love them.
All right. What else you got?
All right. So I've also been playing a bit of Into the Breach.
Yeah, so my brother told me about this game last week and was really excited for it. And I didn't even know you had heard of this one either, but I want to hear about it, so get going.
All right, I will. So Into the Breach is developed by the same people who developed FTL, a game that I also had not heard of before Into the Breach. It's very, from what I understand, Into the Breach is very similar to FTL in that it's a sort of a real-time strategy tactical game where Into the Breach, it's pixel art, but it's very detailed pixel art, and it's set on an isometric grid map. And the whole storyline is this alien species of insects known as the Vec have attacked and completely overrun Earth. And this is set years in the future. So you are piloting a group of mechs, giant mechanical robots. For anyone who doesn't know what a mech is, which if you don't, I'm sorry for you, because they're the coolest things ever. So you pilot 3 different kinds of mechs. You have like a giant like robot mech that's like you can punch. There's another that's like a tank that fires straight ahead. And then there's a third type of mech that launches like these rockets that can arch over obstacles, and they can hit enemies that are like in front of you or to the left of you, but not like directly in front of you, you know?
Right.
So there are lots of different ways to attack the Vec as they're trying to attack these different areas. And like you can move right up to them and punch them, and when you punch them, like if you hit them, you not only do damage to them, but you also push them in the direction of your attack, so they move one space over. And what's cool is the game like tells you exactly what the Vex attacks are going to do and what your attacks are going to do right before you do them. So you can highlight like, oh, I want to attack this guy, and you can see, you can punch this Vec and you'll hurt him, but you'll also push him into, let's say, another one of your mechs is right behind him. You'll push this Vec into the other mech, and it will damage your mech. So you may think, I don't want to do this. You want to try a different strategy. The game is very, very, very hard. The Vec multiply very quickly, and you can very easily be overrun just by sheer numbers. I've had many times where I played the games, and one of my mechs was literally just targeted by 4 different Vex. And when they target you, they just run up to you, and they shoot this web at you that just completely traps you, so you can't move. The only thing your mech can do at that point is attack. But then, like, another mech attacks one way and another way, and then a different kind of Vec is the rocket launch capability, where it decides to launch, like, a little water droplet at you, which can also hurt you. And, I mean, to win a lot of these maps, I've had to make some very, very tough calls. I remember one of my only moves left, like, to save the map was to take out all these Vec that were in a row, and I had a laser. The mech that I was controlling at the time had a laser, and there were all these Vec in a row, but they were attacking another one of my mechs, and there was nowhere else for it to go, and it was on its last life. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to have to do this, but I had no choice. I had to fire the laser, and I killed my own mech, and I won the map, and it's just the most brutal feeling in the world. Because, I mean, at the start, you have 3 human pilots, but as you progress through each world and each mission, if they die, they're each replaced by a robot. So, I mean, in addition, further missions, it's not so bad because they're just expendable robots. But at the beginning, when it's like actual people in those mechs, it's like, oh god, this is brutal. And then when you die, like say the Vec win a map, and then it's like, oh, the world is being destroyed now, because that's what the Vec are doing. Is you have a power grid, and every time the Vec attacks a building, it reduces your power grid. And if the power grid goes down to 0, then your defenses completely fail planet-wide, and the Vec just swarm everything and take over. And at that point, you say, oh, this timeline is ruined. So now you have to jump to a different timeline, and by doing so, you only send one of your human pilots back. If you don't have any human pilots to send back, then the game is over completely. But if you have any human pilots left, then you choose which one of those human pilots goes to the next timeline to continue the fight for mankind's future.
That sounds pretty intense.
It's very intense. It's so awesome. Like, you have no idea. My one pilot that I've had since the beginning, he's like maxed out level at this point, but he's been through like 3 different timelines so far, and I just can't even imagine the things that he's seen and done over like traveling through different timelines. Like, that's crazy. Man, I don't know what else to say about the game other than that it's really fun, it's really cool, and it is really, really hard, punishingly hard.
It's on
Yeah,
Steam, right?
yes, it is currently on Steam. I'm not 100% sure when or if there will be console versions of the game coming out, but yeah, definitely on Steam right now. So yeah, pick it up.
Awesome.
Another game I've been playing is Fee. Not sure how to pronounce it, but it's Fe. I'm going with Fey.
Faye. Is there like an accent over the E?
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably
It,
Faye.
or it could be just like Fe.
Faye. Yeah, Faye.
Yeah, Fe.
Feh.
So I saw this. I saw this game listed on the Switch eShop. So I decided, you know what? I haven't given my Switch a little love in a while. So you know what? This looks like a fun little indie game. It looks cool. So let me give it a shot. So I picked it up, and I gotta say, like, the developers of the game, like, you're you're a little wolf-like creature, right? And it's a 3D world, and you're running around, and you look at it, and the game is very purple with like a shadowy context to it, so it's very dark. And the whole point of the game is you are this little wolf, and you're dropped into the world. And the whole idea is you're not entirely sure what the story is, but you pick up on the story as you play through the game. Like, nothing is explained to you. So things are going on, but you have to figure out what's going on and then, like, how to save everyone. And you're a little wolf creature in the middle of the forest, and you run along, and there's like deer, and there's like little squirrels or whatever, and giant birds and little birds and all sorts of other woodland creatures. But then there's like these human type creatures that have like this light glowing out of their chest, and sometimes they crawl, like sometimes they get on their bellies and they crawl like they're beetles, and they move really fast at that point, and they go to all the different woodland creatures, and they shoot nets out of themselves and capture everyone. And so you have to figure out, okay, you know, what's all this? I feel like the developers aren't exactly sure like what they were trying to do with this concept. Like, or like they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but they just couldn't figure out how to do it. The game wants you to figure everything out on your own, but it's also very tutorial heavy. Like, oh, you know, you go to this little section, and then a little pop-up shows up that tells you, oh, press A. And yeah, it's like, oh, okay. And then you go like somewhere else, and it's like, oh, you know, maybe you should you know, use these pearls to do X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, the game wants you to figure things out on your own, but it's also kind of guiding you to where you need to go. One of the animals, like, you sing to all the animals to try to build friendship with them. So, like, the different animals will just kind of run along and do whatever. But if you press and hold, like, the sing button, the wolf will start howling, and then the whatever creatures nearby will come up, and then this weird like little lightning bolt will come out of you, and it'll come out of the deer, and they'll meet in the middle, and it'll be kind of like fuzzy until you adjust your singing voice. And you do that, like, for the Switch version you have motion controls, so you tilt the screen up or down, or you tilt the controllers up or down to adjust the pitch of your singing. And when it's lined up with the animal you're singing to, you'll get like a connection with them, and then they'll help you out in some ways.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, but it's also very clunky in its execution.
Yeah.
Like, the singing, again, like, you have to adjust the different pitches to get everything singing right. This wolf, like, I mean, when it's howling and it's at a good pitch, it's like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, that's great. But then you can adjust the pitches up and down, and And it's honestly the most horrifying sounds you'll ever hear. Like, it literally goes like, like it sounds like this thing is like drowning as opposed to singing. It's horrifying. It's kind of a platformer type game, so it's like a 3D open world platformer. So you're just running around the forest discovering its secrets, and it's just very open and very bland, and the like jumping around everywhere isn't really fun. It's just like there was nothing about the game that was really compelling, It just wasn't a good time.
Are there enemies, or it's just like an exploration kind of game?
The enemies are like those human beetle things, and if you encounter them in the world, then suddenly everything takes on a stealth-like environment because you cannot fight them at all. All you can do is run away and avoid them. If they catch you, then they'll entrap you in a net, and you'll die, and you'll have to start over. Now, the game auto-saves pretty generously, so it's, not so bad to lose whatever progress you have. But, yeah, honestly, there just really isn't a whole lot that's drawn me back to the game or makes me really want to keep playing it. So, I don't know, like, I'd have to say, like, for Faye, I'd give it a Faye.
1 Faye out of 10 Faye.
One Faye out of 10 Fizz.
All right, but hey, that sounds like a pretty different type of game. It's cool you tried it.
Yeah, I mean, someone has to fall on the sword to save everyone else the experience.
All right, martyr.
All right. Now, the last game that I decided to pick up this week is a bit of a surprise.
Ooh.
Yes. Now, this is a game I've had on my backlog for a while now. And it's a game I've always wanted to play, and I've heard everyone else raving about it.
Super Mario Brothers.
There's 3 of these?
I've never heard of these games.
Oh, man. I can't imagine. But no. It's not from quite such a storied franchise, but it is also from a storied franchise. And this is a game that a lot of people have mentioned that it's kind of underrated, but it may actually be the best in the series. Depending on who you ask. Justin, the game I decided to try out this week was Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, did you get it on Steam? Or are you playing on PS4?
I had it on Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a sale, like, I think it was a couple years ago or so, where a lot of the Final Fantasy games, like the PC versions for 7, 8, and 9 were on sale. So I decided to scoop all of them up. Now, I mean, I had played 7 before. I actually have never played 8 either, but I was like, But 9 is the one that I've heard everyone talk about and rave about as sneakily one of the best games, if not the best game in the franchise. Now, to me, that's arguable, because, I mean, 6, 4, 7, all those games are fantastic. So 9 has a lot to live up to. And I gotta say, from what I've been playing so far, I'm about like maybe 4 or 5 hours into the game so far. I am loving absolutely every little bit of this game. It's funny. It doesn't take itself so seriously, but there's enough action and drama going on where you're invested. The writing is amazing. Like, just the situations that the characters get themselves into, the characters themselves, like, I'm immediately invested in these characters and the things that happen to them. Like, it is flawless character design. Everyone stands out from one another, both just in design and in personality. The worlds that I'm exploring so far are just really beautiful. The soundtrack is just man, it is that classic Final Fantasy soundtrack where I'm just playing along, I'm exploring a different castle, and my head's just bopping along to whatever track is playing at the moment. I mean, it's just so good. I'm having a blast with the game. I know I've got way way more to go till I reach the conclusion, but right now, from what I've played so far, I'm extremely impressed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about how much praise that game gets from people and how it is kind of like a sleeper. And that's definitely one that I want to play. I unfortunately never got around to playing when I was younger, but yeah, at some point I want to play that game just for people tell me how great it is and how much I love Final Fantasy. I I wanted to know. I heard the port isn't that great or something? Like it's kind of different than the actual game. Are you noticing anything like that, or does it seem pretty fine to you so far?
I mean, I'm playing from a point where I had never played the original game on the PlayStation, so I'm playing just the PC port of the game. Now, I will say the graphics themselves look very PS1-ish. Um, so it doesn't look like that it received that classic Square Enix, quote unquote graphical upgrade when
Right.
they port their games to the PC. So it looks fine in that regard. The text is, I guess it's a little too clean at some points. It just looks unnaturally clean as compared with everything else. And the controls, I'm trying playing with my PS4 controller, but for whatever reason, the game just gets all sorts of wonky whenever I try hooking up the controller. So I've actually been playing with keyboard and mouse, which is not as clunky as you think it would be. Like, they've actually done a really good job in streamlining, in carrying over the PS1 controls and porting them over to a keyboard and mouse. So you would think for playing something like Final Fantasy IX, it would be really bad, but honestly, like, you get used to the controls, it's not so bad. Plus, all the controls are mappable, so you can customize them however you want, and that's both with a keyboard and mouse or with a controller.
That's good to know. I know that Square's been porting the games like crazy. They even are putting a lot of these out on mobile. And like, I just can't imagine playing a Final Fantasy game on your phone. That would be so like just annoying to me. But I guess some people like to do that and can figure out a fun way to play it. But I mean, it's good to know that it's optimized well for keyboard and mouse.
I feel like this was one of the last ports that Square Enix put out from one of their old games before they decided, hey, instead of just putting these games out for the PC just as is, why don't we just completely destroy the graphics for the game and make it look super ugly, and then just release that and never release the original versions that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah.
Oh God. Last week I was excited, Justin, for a whole 20 seconds for the Chrono Trigger on PC release before I realized what the game looks like and that it was a port of the mobile version.
Yeah.
Oh, the crushing disappointment.
Yeah, definitely a bummer.
All right, so that does it for me. How about you? What are you playing?
Well, like you, Chris, I have been playing a lot, but unlike you, it hasn't been a lot of new things. It's all stuff that I've kind of played before, and some stuff that I haven't talked about on the pod yet, but definitely more Mario Odyssey. That's become my weekend morning game where I kind of wake up and pour myself a cup of coffee or get some green tea or something, and then just sit down and then just start collecting moons and I'm trying to get all the moons in the game. I know there's like almost 1,000. I think I'm halfway there. I'm almost at 500. And what I'm doing is going stage by stage and just like getting as many as I possibly can. You break the titanium box that unlocks all the new moons and that shows locations on the map. So you can go to them. It's kind of easy to find those ones. Easier. Sometimes the little X on the map has nothing to do with where the moon is, or it's just really confusing to decipher that. Um, so I'm trying to work through them, and then I'll go back to, if you talk to the toad in the beginning of the levels and you pay him 50 coins, he'll put an X on the map to show you where one of the original moons in the level was that you haven't found yet. And again, sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm doing all right. Like each stage, I'm only missing about like anywhere from like 5 to 10 moons. So I'm really like kind of covering a lot of ground. And the last stage I left off on was my favorite stage in the game of New Donk City. So there are plenty of new moons to find there, and really looking forward to them. Still very aggravated by the Koopa races whenever I have to do them. Uh, it's a good challenge, and sometimes it's fun, but sometimes it's just so like you have to be so precise to beat some of those Koopas, where like one false move will slow you down, and they'll just get ahead of you, and they'll beat you, within like a split second, and it's just so annoying to have to go back to the start and do it all over again. And whenever I get to a new stage that has like a new Koopa race, I always just run right by him. I'm like, I'm not dealing with you right now. Come back to this one later. Because they're just so anxiety-inducing. Like, oh,
yeah,
man.
Oh, yeah, they are. Oh, especially like right at the end where you think, oh, like where's the last Koopa? Where, is he like right behind me? How far ahead am I? Just there's so many different thoughts that enter your mind. I think it was the other day I was actually doing the Koopa races in the Luncheon Kingdom, and my strategy for doing the Koopa races is, okay, I go in for the first time, and the first run is very low stakes. I'm just going to follow, the first time I follow the blue one, the second time I'll follow the gold one.
Yeah,
right?
you're learning the layout.
Yeah, learn the layout, because the blue one always wins the first time, the gold one always wins the second one. So you follow the blue one and see what he does, and you see, oh, he actually knows like a different shortcut than I was aware of. So okay, but that one Koopa always screws up somehow. So as long as you can not screw up the way he does, then you're good to go. But I was in the Luncheon Kingdom, and like when they do different moves, they just jump like in different areas, and they look like, oh, they do different moves. The Koopas, you know how in the Luncheon Kingdom there are those platforms that move back and forth over like that purple lava type whatever?
Yeah.
In that one area, and they just kind of like move around the different little islands. These Koopas were literally jumping into like where the lava was, and then they were doing like another hop like midway off of that. And I was like, what are they even doing? Like because I was jumping on the island and then jumping on the little moving platform and then the island, but they were just jumping on nothing and then landing on the island after that. I was like, what is going on here? What are they even doing? I was finally able to like pass them and won the race, but I still can't figure out if it was like just some weird glitch or what was going on there.
Dude, the rules of gravity do not apply to Koopas. Okay, they can do whatever they want whenever they want.
I guess that's true. I mean, if that were true, then Bowser would have taken over the Mushroom Kingdom a long time ago. He just sent his army of floating Koopas out to ravage the Toads and, eviscerate them.
They're still vulnerable to getting stepped on by a plumber, though. That's the trade-off.
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
So yeah, this is continuing Mario. Trying to buy like the new costumes whenever I unlock them. I'm actually trying to save up a lot of coins to buy some of that stuff. So there's a skeleton costume in the game that costs 9,999 coins, and I remember thinking like, wow, this thing must be like amazing. Like it must give you some sort of ability to cost that much. It does absolutely nothing. It's just like a bragging right thing. Like, oh, you want this last costume to have in your to have the full costume inventory? Well, you're gonna have to spend 10,000 coins to get it.
I feel like Nintendo hasn't figured out the whole, like, oh, if you put in a lot of time and effort for a thing, then you get a worthwhile reward type mechanic. Like, remember in Breath of the Wild, the Korok seeds?
Yeah.
If you manage to find all of them, then you literally get, like, a golden turd at the end that does nothing. And for Mario Odyssey, you spend almost 10,000 coins on a skeleton outfit that's literally just a skeleton outfit. Does absolutely nothing except make you look like a skeleton.
I think it's their way of just like kind of having fun with you for like, oh, you put all this time into this pointless thing. Like, all right, well, here's your reward, dummy. Like, like basically telling you not to focus too much on one thing. Or, Japan's weird like that sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose. So what else you been playing this week?
So aside from that, like I said, I moved into a new place this week, and it's been kind of hectic. So I don't even have my PS4 hooked up yet. So the only thing I really threw on the TV was, well, my Switch I can play portably, and then we hooked up my Wii U so I could play we could play YouTube and stuff on the TV downstairs. And recently we've been watching a lot of the Angry Video Game Nerd on YouTube, and it's been giving me a lot of nostalgia for retro stuff. And I really wanted to play like a really good NES game. So I figured, all right, I'll go with one of my favorite games of all time, and I'll download Mega Man 2.
Nice. That is old school.
Yeah. So many of the Mega Man games are great, but Mega Man 2 stuck with me because of, I think when I was in college, I was hearing a lot of particularly how great and fervored that game was. And I think I played it over a friend's place or something, but I just loved like everything about that game. Like the controls feel so tight in that game. They're like perfect for what you're trying to do, and a lot of NES games don't have that. And it's really crazy to see how a well-made game from a well-known developer can create a really fun, lasting, timeless experience on an NES game, compared to a lot of the crap that came out for the NES. But the controls are perfect, and it complements the game's challenge very well of just, the very tight platforming and, the just positioning of your shots and dodging, enemy attacks and learning patterns. Like, it all just blends so well together in that game. Plus, that soundtrack, I will stand on, my grave yelling or whatever, however that expression is supposed to go. That is one of the best soundtracks ever in a game. I love it so much. Like, it's just so kick-ass and rocking. And every level, man, I'm just like bopping my head, like you said, running through it and just having such a blast, man, playing that game. It's so much fun.
How exactly are you supposed to stand on your grave?
I don't know. I imagine a good friend of mine, like you maybe, will dig me up out of my casket, prop me up.
And do like a Weekend at Bernie's, like get you on strings and get you dancing on the grave.
Yeah, dancing and yelling about Mega Man 2.
Yeah, oh man, Mega Man 2 is great. Oh man, here come the cops. I wonder what they want.
But yeah, I never actually beat the game, so I'm going to try to do that. The farthest I ever made it, the last time I played it was, I think, not at Dr. Wily, but pretty close to him, one of his stages or whatever. I remember fighting like a giant dragon or something that was kind of tough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that dragon.
So, I mean, we'll see how far I can get, but I'm just having a blast replaying that game. It's just so interesting to me that a game that came out in 1987 or 88 can still be this easy to pick up and play and still feel so natural, Plus, turning the Wiimote sideways into a controller was one of the most awesome things to do to play an NES game. It just perfectly mimics the NES controller, and it just feels so comfortable in your hands. And yeah, it's awesome to be playing that again.
Yeah, man. I mean, some games just have that timeless feel to them. I mean, no matter what era that they were made, you could pick them up and play them anywhere, anytime, and they're just always good.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah,
that music's so good.
yeah, it
Um,
is.
and then I was playing a couple of other things that I had played before. Uh, Butch and I actually beat one of my previous indie arcade games of Guns, Gore, and Cannoli.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we were just kind of randomly here and there picking it up and running through the co-op together, and it definitely gets hard. Like the onslaught of enemies that keep coming at you gets pretty relentless at points. But you get some pretty crazy weapons later too, including like a laser gun that literally like just zaps people and electrocutes them. Rocket launcher, a flamethrower where like you just literally burn people to a crisp, and it's definitely a lot of fun to take out all those guys like that. The final boss was like this 3-stage, 3-part crazy like boss battle. Like you're fighting a guy, then he goes into a helicopter and you fight him in a helicopter, and then like he comes back again with like a Gatling gun in a helicopter, and you have to take him out that way. And each stage was like pretty difficult. I mean, we were dying a lot, and when we finally beat the first stage and we went to the second stage, we died again, and we were just fully anticipating starting from the beginning. But the game was very generous and let us start from the second stage of the fight, and then the same thing again for the third stage. So that was actually really nice, because having to start from the beginning every single time we died would have been brutal.
I remember briefly playing the game with you at one point, and we were fighting, I guess it was one of the earlier bosses together, and that was so hard. Oh, it was just brutally hard. I can't imagine what the final boss fight must have been like.
Yeah, it's just tough because like not only are you fighting the final boss, but there's just onslaughts of enemies coming from the left and right, so you have to deal with them also, and it just gets so overwhelming. And the game is a lot of fun, but it definitely has some flaws where like when you get mobbed by enemies, you just can barely move and get out of the way, and they'll just like ridiculously gang up on you and just start peeling away your health so quickly that it just becomes a real struggle for you. And then just sometimes the controls don't feel as great. Sometimes there's so much going on, like I literally lost track of my character and didn't know where I was until I saw him die, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm dead. And that definitely, that kind of stuff was getting very frustrating, if you could tell, in the final boss. But I don't want to harp it too much because it was a lot of fun, and I know there is a second game that came out. It's not yet on Switch, but if it does come to Switch, I'll probably pick it up because it was a fun co-op game to play.
All right, awesome. So if that's it for you,
I had one more actually.
oh, by all means.
We were playing a lot of Puyo Puyo Tetris again.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had the
Very
demo
nice.
for it. I never actually picked up the full game, but Nick and Annie came over, and we were kind of popped that in, and we're playing that, and we got hooked. We played like 20 something matches in a row, and Nick is really good at Tetris. he was
really good, yeah.
Yeah, he was just getting like Tetrises in a row and a row and a row, and like just stacking up on our screens and really screwing me and Annie over. But the good part is I'm pretty good at Puyo, so when we were playing the Switch mode where it goes back and forth from Tetris to Puyo. So when we go back to Puyo, I'm doing great. My board's pretty well cleared. I'm just kind of taking my time with it and organizing things to get the best combos. But then it would switch back to Tetris, and like, oh right, I'm about to die here. Like it's like almost completely filled, and just trying to stay alive in Tetris so I can go back to Puyo. And like it's pretty hectic and crazy, but man, that game's a lot of fun. They really did a great job throwing that thing together. I love the presentation of it, the really goofy characters, the sound effects, the music, like everything is just really well done. It's a great job with Sega for that one, and I definitely want to pick up the full game. We were playing all that in just the demo. If you're a big Tetris or puzzle fan and you haven't played Puyo Puyo Tetris yet, I strongly suggest you pick it up.
See, I'm like the exact opposite of you in that I'm pretty good at Tetris. I am not good at all in Puyo Puyo. I cannot string together a combo to save my life. Like, as soon as I get, like, a combination of, like, oh, this color matches with that color, I immediately jump on it. I don't string anything together and think, oh, like, if I do this and then do that, I can maybe chain different combos together. My brain just cannot process that. Yeah, Tetris comes much more easily to me.
Yeah, it's cool to have both options.
Right. Let me see. So, now are you done?
Now I am done.
All right. Well then, it's time for the Indie Arcade.
Indie Arcade.
A couple weeks ago, I gave Justin the game Dungreed to play as his Indie Arcade title. Justin, tell us about Dungreed.
Dungreed is a randomly generated bullet hell pixel-based game, and it is a lot of fun. I'm having a blast playing this game. In fact, I was kind of lost track of time and was almost like late setting up for the pod because I was still playing that game. And I'm actually surprised because I'm not normally a fan of these types of randomly generated games I found them like a little bit just too challenging to be any fun really for me sometimes. But I'm not that far in it yet, but so far the challenge is good. It's not too overwhelming. Basically how it works is the game starts out pretty hysterically. It's like it shows a town of like these people in it, and like this nice music playing, and like there's a text box that says, "This is whatever town, and the people live here are very happy." And then the next text box says, "And then a giant dungeon emerged from the ground and sucked everybody up." And it just shows like this giant dungeon that's like a stone like face where there's eyes up above it, and the gate is like the mouth of the face, and just emerges from the ground and just sucks everybody up like off the screen into the dungeon, and it goes back into the ground, and then the game starts. It's like that was the story of the game.
All right, well, that's all the story you need.
Yeah, it's got a good sense of humor. It's got a really cool like cartoony pixel style to it. A lot of it reminded me of the very first Indie Arcade game that you assigned me, Chris, Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah, man, that's a callback.
Yeah, well, it kind of works the same way, where there are randomly, basically, so that town is like the hub, right? And in the very beginning of the game, you find in the dungeon, you rescue this guy who is the builder of the town. And he tells you that all the villagers in the town are kidnapped inside the dungeon. And whenever you rescue a new villager, to talk to him, because he can build that villager's like workshop in the town. Like the first person I found in the game after saving the builder was a character who runs like a training facility, and that's basically where you go to level up your character. So once I rescued her, I went back to town. I talked to the builder, and then he builds her training facility. And so now the training facility is available in the town. So I go talk to her, and then I can level up my character. And so every villager that you find in the dungeon has some sort of benefit to you in the town later. And how it works is every time you go into the dungeon, again, it's randomly generated. So every room could be something different. It kind of reminded me a lot of The Binding of Isaac too, where there's different weapons you can get. There's different items that do different things for you, like a magnet that sucks all the gold to you, or like a mirror that will reflect poison and kind of deal some poison damage to different people. Or there's just, equipment like a ring that's +5 defense or something like that. And you can find all these things in the dungeons by, if you kill everybody on a screen, like a chest will pop up and it might have something in it, like a weapon or an item. Or there are different screens that have shopkeepers on them that you can buy stuff from. There is a food system that kind of works like Monster Hunter, where you go and buy some food that can give you perks for your current dungeon run. Like, oh, if you eat this food, it's +5 defense for the rest of this dungeon run. And, the each room again is randomly generated. So sometimes you might find like an altar where you're supposed to sacrifice something, or in the next room will just be a room that's an onslaught of enemies like skeletons and bats and crazy like orc guys. Sometimes a room will have a fast travel point that you activate, so you can bring up your map and you can go back to different parts of the dungeon that you've been through that had a fast travel point in them. So you can navigate more and go back to all different rooms. There are different floors in the dungeon that basically you go deeper into the dungeon that unlock, I guess, possibly harder enemies and just more interesting items. The weapons are crazy. Like I found a blunderbuss, which is like a gun that shoots like 5 bullets at once.
Oh God.
Yeah. I found like a ninja star boomerang thing. This is giant like metal spiked boomerang that you throw. It'll come back to you. Deals a lot of damage. You have a dash move that you can use twice before it has to recharge. That basically helps you jump over long gaps, or mainly I think is to be used to avoid some of the projectiles from the enemies, because as it is a bullet hell game, things can get kind of hectic. And one thing that I really like about the game is that if you physically touch an enemy, like if you land like right on top of an enemy, that does not hurt you. It doesn't deal any damage. You only get hurt if like the enemy physically attacks you. So it makes you not have to worry about that when you're dashing and dipping all over the screen. Because when things get so hectic, if you land on the same platform that an enemy is on and you literally land on top of him, he's not going to hurt you unless he was like swinging already, or if he was shooting a bow at you already, or like some sort of projectile at you. So it's just one less thing you have to worry about when you're bouncing all over the screen. So I thought that was actually a nice touch.
That is cool.
And then, so how it works is whenever you die or whenever you leave the dungeon, because you can leave a dungeon at any time, normally you want to at least rescue like one villager and then leave the dungeon. You lose all the items that you found on that run. Like the little dungeon pops up in the corner and like sucks them all up out of your inventory. But you get to keep all your experience that you made in that dungeon. Every time you kill an enemy, you get some experience. So you can go back to the training room and level up, your defense, your attack power, your speed, stuff like that. And every time you re-enter the dungeon, you're basically starting from scratch weapon-wise. You always start with a short sword, like that's your only one that you always keep with you. But everything else you found on that run is like wiped. So every new run, you'll find new things, new items, in new locations. And it's just kind of adds to like a pretty addicting gameplay. I made it to one boss so far. I went into this one room and there was this giant skull with 2 hands spinning around the room. And mistakenly wandering into this room, and then all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a boss battle. I think I fared pretty well. I died, but I did about 75% of the damage to him. So I don't think it would be too hard to fight him, and also, next time I fight him, I'll be more of a higher level. I can do a little bit of grinding if I want. Because again, you can leave a dungeon at any time. So you can just go down there, kill a bunch of enemies, go up, level up, do it again. The only penalty you get from leaving a dungeon is that you lose all the items that you found in that run. So
right.
Next time I fight that dude, I'll be a higher level, and it'll probably go a little bit easier. But yeah, it was a crazy fight. Like, he's shooting all these orbs at you, and you're just kind of dashing out of the way and just trying to get as much damage into him as you can. And yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, for a game that I didn't think I was going to enjoy that much, I'm really having a lot of fun with it, and I want to go back to it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it so much. I remember you expressed skepticism when I signed this way back when, but yeah, I'm glad it's become such a pleasant surprise for you.
Yeah, I think I was just worried about it might be a little too hard, but so far it seems like a pretty fair challenge, so that's good to know, and I do recommend it. Plus, the music's awesome. It's got like a really great like RPG town theme when you're in the town, and when you're in the dungeon, there's like this awesome kind of like heavy metal like guitar like going on. Like it's really, really great. Really pumps you up.
Nice.
Okay, Chris, with that being said, it is time for me to assign a game to you. I kind of feel like I've been a little tough on you lately. So,
I agree.
but with me having as much fun as I did with Dungreed, I think it was only right of me to pick a game that I think you would have a lot of fun playing. And this game, I think, is perfect for you because it is a comedy adventure game, and you love to laugh, and you love adventure games.
That is very true.
This game is on Steam. It is currently $9.99, and it is called Choo-Choo.
Oh, okay. I remember seeing something about Choo-Choo.
I think I'm pronouncing it right. It's Chuchel.
Yes.
Choo-Choo is a comedy adventure game from the creators of Machinarium, Botanicula, and Saramost. Join the hairy hero Choo-Choo and his rival Keckle as they will be facing numerous puzzles and challenges in their quests to retrieve the precious cherry. The reward? Cheerful, situational humor, wild music, and sounds by the band DVA. Dozens of hilarious gags that warm up even the coldest of souls. Plus cherries. And it says you're going to be cracking up many times. You're going to laugh a lot. There are stages inspired by classic video games. You're going to interact with dozens of funky characters. And you're going to build an inexplicable passion for cherries.
Yeah, this, I remember seeing some advertisements for it here and there, but I hadn't really looked up too much about it. But it looks, it looks really silly. The art style, I don't know how to describe the art style.
I was gonna say kind of like a dark children's book almost, like a grim fairy tale kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like those Critters books almost.
A little weirder than that, I would say.
A little weirder than that. Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, it's it looks really really fun. The main character kind of looks like a fuzzy acorn.
Yes.
Yeah, like a black fuzzball with an orange acorn hat. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm pleasantly surprised that you actually gave me what may be an enjoyable game for once.
Maybe it'll stop your whining.
Listen, there is no force on this earth that can ever stop my whining.
It's highly reviewed on Steam. I think you'll really enjoy it.
I think I'm going to really enjoy it too. It looks like a lot of fun, and yeah, I can't wait to pick it up, which I'm actually doing as we speak.
All right. Look at this guy, multitasking.
Yep.
All right, Chris. With that, what do you say we take a quick break? And when we come back, we will dive into all these big announcements from the most recent Nintendo Direct.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Welcome back. It's time for me and Chris to dive right into the big Nintendo Direct that was on Thursday of last week. There was about, I think we counted them. It was about 20 announcements that they went over in the direct, and unfortunately, more than 3/4 of them are ports and re-releases. Which, Chris and I have talked about a bunch of how, yes, it stinks for us who have played the games, but it's great for the people who have not had a chance to play those games, who did not own a Wii U, and to see these games get some more love that they deserve, that is great. I just really wish there was some sort of incentive for people that did already purchase the game in full to get some sort of discount or something to when they buy it again, to get like a price break. Like, why couldn't that be tied into like your Nintendo account or something,
Right. And just to be clear, this is specifically related to Wii U ports of older games. I mean, a lot of the ports that were announced on the Nintendo Direct aren't necessarily related strictly to the Wii U, but I mean, we have games like Hyrule Warriors. Now this is going to be, I think, the full edition of the game coming out for the Switch. Let me see. Yeah, we have Captain Toad, but I think, is that coming out for the Switch, or is that a 3DS release?
Switch, yeah.
That Switch? Okay. So yeah, you've got Captain Toad, Hyrule Warriors. Now, I gotta say though, I never actually did pick up Captain Toad on the Wii U, so I actually could pick up the Switch version of the game at this point. But yeah, man, it just is disappointing. Like, I feel like at this point we just kind of have to face facts at this point, along with the other Wii U owners, that at this point we were probably just beta testers for like a Switch prototype at this point. And we just bought these original versions of the game. It just didn't work out, and we're just going to have to eat it, unfortunately. I mean, I don't see Nintendo changing the way that they're doing things with these Wii U ports. It just sucks. It sucks, but I don't think there's really all that much we can do about it.
Yeah, I look at it like a specific example. Like, let's take Captain Toad. I have that game for Wii U. I like that game, but I didn't really spend a lot of time with it. It's just, I don't know, it didn't really fit into like my other games I was playing during that time. And, just the Wii U as a whole, like, didn't really resonate, I guess, as much as we wanted it to, right? The Wii U is kind of clunky to play, right, with the gamepad and everything. It's got to be plugged in, and that screen always has to be on, and it's just annoying. But to have Captain Toad on a portable Switch, like, I feel like I would play Captain Toad on the go or whatever, like, in my bed, anytime, no problem. But I don't want to pay a full price Captain Toad again. Like, it's just to get it on a different console, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a little bit of a first world Nintendo fan problem, but it's just kind of frustrating and a little bit disappointing the way I look at it.
Right. And plus, you also, I guess, will lead into the big one. I mean, we're not even necessarily 100% sure if this is a port or not, but Justin, they finally officially announced, now they were going to do this eventually, but they finally officially announced Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, so they closed the show with a little teaser that showed some inklings running around the screen, and they look up and they see, in a very dramatic fashion, the Smash Brothers logo appear from the sky like a giant ball of fire, and you see a silhouette of Link in his Breath of the Wild garb and a silhouette of Mario. Some people say they saw like Cappy outline in his hat, but I didn't see that in the video.
No, I didn't. I didn't get a good enough look at the hat to notice that. Although it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, me either. But basically, yeah. So it was a teaser for Smash Brothers, and then it just said, Smash Brothers for Nintendo Switch and coming out in 2018, and there was no, uh, this is the weirdly ambiguous part. We still don't know if this thing is going to be a port, like a Smash 4.5 with added characters, or a whole new game. Now, for me, I immediately assumed, all right, if this thing's coming out this year, it's got to just be a port with added features. But I was watching the direct with Butch, and he was like, well, what if they were working on this secretly, for a while to make a whole new game to unveil on the Switch? It could be something that they've done. I saw online someone pointing out that the HAL Laboratory logo was at the bottom of the little trailer teaser thing that they did, and that it wasn't on Smash 4 or something like that, so it could lead to something new. I don't know. It's a lot of weird speculation, and just kind of strange for them to not really clarify what this is going to be yet, right? Like, that was a really weird move on Nintendo's part.
I think it was weird, but I think part of the reason why they announced everything the way they did is so that they could get everyone doing exactly what we're doing right now, talking about it, speculating, kind of thinking up, oh, is this a port? Is this a new version? And just kind of getting Smash Brothers actively being discussed in the general gaming spheres that are out there. Because, I mean, after the Direct, this was all pretty much anyone is talking about, is the new Smash Brothers that's coming out. And for my money, I was with you in that when I first saw the announcement, firstly, what an awesome way it was to actually reveal the new game, right? Because, I mean, it was just a dramatic shot. Like, the Inkling girl, looks backwards, and she has kind of, this look of shock or horror on her face. And then you see the logo reflected in her eye. And at that point, you see reaction shots of the internet. People go nuts right at that moment.
Yeah.
And
it was pretty crazy.
And I assumed immediately that it was a port of the fourth Smash Brothers game, the one that came out on Wii U and 3DS. But the more and more I've been reading, and the more people have been pointing out different details, especially consider that Smash 4 came out in 2014. So they're saying that it's coming out in 2018. I mean, that's 4 years of potential development time going on right there. I mean, that's not such a that's not too short amount of time to be building a Smash Brothers game,
Yeah, but so you're right. Maybe this was kind of really kept tightly under wraps. I also read that it was confirmed that Sakurai is working on this game. What that means, I don't know. Is he working on the port version of the game, or is it a brand new game? That still doesn't really confirm everything. But I remember when Smash 4 was coming out, there was a 2-year build-up of new characters being announced every couple months, and a website that was just kind of being updated with new stages and items and info and stuff. And to not have any of that for the new one might be a little strange. To just kind of drop a whole new game. I don't know. I don't want to speculate like this, but here we are.
Right. Smash Brothers is in and of itself a strong enough franchise that, just the idea, the thought of a new Smash Brothers coming out is enough to send fans into an absolute frenzy, as you can see from the reaction this past week. People have been going nuts, and they went nuts for pretty much every release of the game ever since Melee came out. Yeah. And it's it's a lot of fun to speculate. I'm gonna be picking this new game up. It's a Smash Brothers. You can't ignore it, and I'm just really excited to see what moves or upgrades or, God forbid, downgrades that they've introduced to Yoshi, so I can safely and firmly kick everybody's asses once again.
You are very good with Yoshi.
I am very good at Yoshi, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Almost as good as you are with Luigi.
Well, it's been a while, but...
No, it's like a bike.
Yeah. I would say I was 95% certain this was a port, and after all the speculation this week, I'm maybe 90% certain it's a port. But if it's something entirely brand new, I will be very surprised. I know either way it's going to be full price, full 60, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I guess
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Another big multiplayer game that was revealed at the Direct, and they went into a lot more detail, was Mario Tennis Aces.
Yeah, I don't know about you, man, but this game's looking really good.
Dude, I am so hyped for this game. This looks phenomenal. Especially, it's been so long since we had a good Mario sports related game to come out that was multiplayer. It's been a long time since we had something good. The games that came out for the GameCube, like tennis and golf and all them, we've needed something like this. And Mario Tennis Aces looks like it is going to fill that void perfectly.
Yeah, I mean that one that came out on the Wii U was, to its credit, it was fun, but it was very lacking on content. It felt kind of half-assed and thrown together. Whereas this one is just so much more going on. There is a RPG mode that's back in the single player, which I'm really excited about. There's all new different ways to actually shoot the ball with these special shots and kind of pick a direction of where you want it to go, and you can break your racket and be out of the game essentially. The Mario and Luigi are wearing visors, not hats, and Wario and Waluigi, so you see their hair, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, we did get to see some of their new hairstyles. I like the poses that they each showed off when they do their special attacks. And Waluigi just kind of has his head thrown back with the rose in his mouth. Almost like he's some hopeless romantic.
Seducing you.
Waluigi doesn't have to try very hard to seduce me. Yeah. But yeah, so it looks like a really fun game. It looks like the classic. You have a classic mode too if you don't want to have all those special shots or crazy things going on. So you can have a traditional mode where it's just good old-fashioned tennis, which is really good for any purists out there. You've got singles, doubles matches, and I remember when I remember playing the original game. Well, not the original game, but back with the GameCube version when I would come over to your house. That was actually, those games are what taught me how tennis actually works.
Oh, yeah, same with me, but with the 64 versions. 64 Mario Tennis and 64 Golf was how I learned the fundamentals of golf and tennis.
Right. But yeah, ever since then, I've been a really big fan of the games. We used to have a lot of good back and forth matches, you and me. Remember when I think we were at Butch's one time, and I was Yoshi, you were Luigi, and we had one volley going on where I was literally 1 foot from the net, you were 1 foot from the net, and we were just whacking the ball back and forth it wasn't hitting the ground for a minute straight. It was so stressful. And then it hit me in my big green nose, and you got the point.
Yeah, so there'll be plenty more of that coming.
Yeah, you wish.
All right, well, let's move on here to probably the other biggest news of the Direct, and that is Splatoon 2's first paid DLC is going to be a brand new single-player campaign that follows a brand new character around. It looks kind of in-depth and was even kind of creepy a little bit, the way, it looked like the Octolings were being born in like this factory or something. Did you see that little part?
I did see that. Honestly, it reminded me of when I was over at Elena and Lewis's, and Lewis was playing a little bit of Let It Die on the PS4. And that game, like, it starts out where you have all these different clones of yourself on a train, and they're all hooked up to, like, these different, like, gas masks and, like, life support systems. And when your character dies, a new clone of yours awakens from the train and will go out and, like, will try to play the game again. So the opening of Splatoon 2's DLC, like, that Octoling path, definitely reminded me a lot of sort of Let It Die, which is in itself kind of a really weird game. And I don't know, like, I guess the presentation of the trailer just was a little off, but the gameplay itself looked like it was pretty standard single-player Splatoon 2 fare, you know?
Yeah, which I think is a sleeper. A lot of people, of course, play Splatoon for multiplayer, but the single-player mode in both Splatoon and Splatoon 2 is really great and a lot of fun and challenging and has some really awesome boss battles in it. And to get another one of those is pretty sweet. What do you think of the $20 price point, though?
I mean, it's a lot. Absolutely. I think it's a lot of money for a DLC. But in the same token, I mean, you're getting a lot of content. I mean, you're getting not just the Octopath single-player mode, but you're getting a lot of different outfits. You're getting new stages. You're getting a lot of new items, new modes that weren't available in the original game. I mean, this is a pretty hefty update to the original game.
I was kind of thinking the same thing. It depends on how long the single player campaign actually is. But you're right. You're also getting a lot of new like clothing, weapons, and levels with this update. So, you know, I
could be honest.
It remains to be seen.
It does remain to be seen. I personally wouldn't mind jumping back in and giving Splatoon 2 another try, because I remember when the game first came out, we were playing it, and for the times we were playing, we were really having a blast. And they have made some quality of life improvements, like you can now change your weapons in the lobby, so you don't have to completely leave the game and then go back in. But those network errors that we were receiving over and over again. Oh, that honestly, that's what killed the game for us. Is every time we tried to log in, we would get kicked out or we'd lose connection. I mean, the game is still going strong, though. A lot of people do still play the game and enjoy it. So I hope that the network issues have been fixed at this point. I would assume that they have been. But yeah, I remember all of us were having a really bad time trying to hook up and play amongst each other. But yeah, I mean, for when we get in and actually play the game is a ton of fun. I'm really, really enjoying it. I had really enjoyed it. I don't know. It's just really, really cool. How about did you see all the comparisons in that opening trailer where you saw what's her face, Pearl, wearing that kind of like slanted crown, and Marina, she was wearing the bandana on the trailer, and everyone compared those images to Biggie Smalls and Tupac.
No, I didn't see that.
You didn't see that? Yeah, people were like putting Pearl side by side with Biggie, and like they were both wearing the crown tilted to the side, and Marina was wearing like the white bandana around her head, the same exact way that Tupac is wearing it in a side by side picture. And people are like, "This can't be a coincidence." I mean,
it's gotta be.
Yeah, they were literally wearing those. They were wearing everything the same way that Biggie and Tupac were.
Splatoon 2's hip.
It's very hip, man. Yeah, it's very with it. Yeah, but it's gonna be good. I mean, that is a huge new IP for Nintendo, and I mean its status is just confirmed by the fact that the Inklings played such a big role in the Smash Brothers reveal trailer.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was great. A good 1-2 punch for them.
It'll be interesting to see how the Inklings are integrated into the Smash Brothers control scheme. They have a very unique play style, so it'll be interesting to see.
Definitely looking forward to that whenever it comes out. Let's briefly move on to the 3DS. Chris, you and I were talking earlier about how we were kind of surprised that the 3DS is still thriving. They're still putting out content for it. But, we decided that, hey, it makes sense. It's sold around 60 million copies of 3DSs are out there in people's homes. Why not still make games for it? And there were some pretty big announcements. Number one, the original Luigi's Mansion GameCube version is going to be ported over to the 3DS. I myself am a giant Luigi fan, so that's kind of very good news for me. Of course, I did play that game and I beat it and I loved it. So, not entirely sure I want to re-buy it, but maybe I will. I mean, I really did love that game a lot. Love just being able to play as Luigi anytime I can.
Right. Plus, I mean, you have to consider that at this point, the original Luigi's Mansion, I mean, that was a launch title for the GameCube. And so that was, God, I'm feeling old. That was almost a little
2001.
a little under 20 years ago. So, so there's, I mean, a whole generation of people who may not have ever played the original Luigi's Mansion who are now going to get that chance to pick up really what is an all-time classic. I mean, I'm with you. I absolutely loved Luigi's Mansion. It was just so good and so fun. Like, everyone should get a chance to play this game.
Mm-hmm. Possibly the biggest surprise, personally, for me, was that a new Dylan game was coming out for the 3DS, and Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers. A lot of people might not be familiar with Dylan. Dylan is actually a Nintendo IP. He's had a few games on Nintendo 3DS's eShop. And how those games work are... the first game was called Dylan's Rolling Western, and I actually forget the name of the second one. I've played Dylan's Rolling Western. It is a tower defense game where you play as Dylan, who is a cowboy armadillo. He's a great character. I think I just love the character so much because the first game, it wasn't outstanding or anything. But I just loved being him. I thought it was a really cool design for a character. But you kind of roll around the map and you kind of are placing like these turrets that just trying to defend the town from like these incoming invaders. And I thought it was pretty cool and pretty fun game to play for a eShop download only game. But this new one, Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers, actually looks really in depth. Like there was a lot of different modes, a lot of cool new characters that they showed. And I really want to learn some more about that game, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I never actually picked up or played the Dylan games myself, so I'm not as big a fan naturally of the series as you are, but that's great that they're still providing a lot of support for everyone out there who has played and loves these games the way that you do.
Yeah, he's actually an assist trophy in Smash Brothers. He'll come on the screen and like kind of roll around and knock around some of the players.
That's right. Yeah, he is an assist trophy. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Let's see. For 3DS, we also have the new Detective Pikachu trailer with a talking Pikachu.
The whole concept, every time I see anything about Detective Pikachu, I know it's been at least a year now since the whole concept was revealed. Every time I see it, I just think to myself, this can't be real. Like, it's just so, I mean, for whatever reason, of all the ridiculous ideas that are out there, the idea of a wisecracking, tough-talking Pikachu who's just tired of this shit and just, like, talks like you and me is just so bizarre. It's so hard for my mind to wrap around this concept.
I also love the name. So we got this idea where Pikachu is a detective, and we need a really great title to sell it. So if you guys can just think of that, that'll be great. And then let me know tomorrow what you come up with.
Yeah, something like Detective Pikachu, only better.
Hey, you guys cool with Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, that works for me. But no, it's I mean, it looks like it's going to be a very unique spin on the Pokemon IP. It's got a really it's got a really cool, really big amiibo that's coming out for Detective Pikachu specifically.
Yeah, it's like twice the size of the regular Pikachu amiibo.
Yeah, so who knows? I'm kind of waiting on this one, but it looks like it could be worth playing just for the laughs in and of themselves. It absolutely, this game is not taking itself seriously, which is fantastic. I love games like that. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see on what happens with it. But yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, honestly.
Yep. And I want to briefly run through a couple more 3DS titles that were announced. Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is getting a re-release for the 3DS. If you've never played that game, that's one of the best of the Mario & Luigi games. It's a lot of fun. You get to play about half the game as Bowser. People love Bowser. They love to stomp around and breathe fire and everything. So, yeah, that's a really great game. So if you're into that at all, I highly recommend picking that up. A WarioWare game is coming out, which is a compilation of over 300 micro games from different WarioWare games. WarioWare is really crazy and silly and fun, and I'm probably going to pick that up because of just how much those games make me laugh. Really excited for that. And Sushi Striker, Way of the Sushido, was a game that was unveiled at E3, specifically only coming out for 3DS. But they just announced in this Direct that it's going to be coming out for both 3DS and the Switch. And it's a cool-looking puzzle game where you fling plates of sushi against the person that you're fighting against across a bunch of conveyor belts and try and rack up all these combos. And it caught my attention. It might be a cool, little, fun puzzle game to kind of just have on the go to play. So, yeah, all three of those are pretty interesting.
Yep, absolutely. We thought the 3DS was dead, but yeah, rumors of its death are greatly exaggerated, obviously.
Yes, indeed. But with that, let's hop back to the Switch. And Chris, I know you're pumped that Octopath Traveler finally got a release date.
Yes, I am very excited. July 13th. We're getting Octopath Traveler coming out, and it's no longer Project Octopath Traveler. It's just simply Octopath Traveler. I played the demo for this. Did you play the demo for this when that was available?
I did, but very briefly. I wish I'd played more of it.
Right. I played through a good chunk of the demo, and I actually got one of the surveys after playing the demo that was saying, hey, you played Octopath. We'd really appreciate if you could complete this survey and tell us what you liked or didn't like about the game. And I'm really, really impressed and pleased with that. Like, I filled out the survey, and my biggest complaint personally was that you had to sit through the cutscenes every single time you died. Like, I kept dying and dying over and over again to the last boss, and there's a fairly long cutscene beforehand, and you could not skip over it.
Ugh.
All you could do was just kind of like skim through the dialogue as quickly as you could just to advance the cutscene along, and then you could play the final fight again. And I had to do that like 3 or 4 different times. So in the survey, I told them, hey, it would be really great if I could just auto skip a cutscene if I died. And it was great because I think it was about a month ago they released a quick video updating everyone on Octopath's development. And they actually took into account a lot of the feedback that came from those surveys, including the ability to skip cutscenes.
We are proud to announce, to accommodate that whiny kid from the press day repeatedly, you can now skip a cutscene in Project Octopath.
Hey, you know what? People should be singing my praises for that. That is a legit complaint.
No, yeah, I'm sure they got a lot of complaints about that,
Right.
Which is why it was one of the changes they made.
Yes, I mean, if it was just me, they would have completely ignored it. But obviously, mine was included with a lot of other different people's complaints, including like there was concerns about how fast the text was going, how long it took to move from like one end of the dungeon to another. A lot of the complaints, I guess, were related to speed of the game. Like people wanted to get to wherever it was they were going faster. So those were a lot of the big changes that they made, plus some balancing to different items and different enemies. And now July 13th, this game is coming out. We also got like brief introductions to 2 new characters who are going to be part of our Octopath throughout the game. There's going to be 8 main characters total. Right now we know about 4 of them. And God, this game just looks beautiful. Like I can't even describe it. It's like a 2.5D pixel-based look, and the lighting on it is just brilliant. The shadows, it's just, I can't even describe how good this game looks. July can't come soon enough. Honestly, this game I'm gonna be playing the heck out of.
Yep, absolutely looking forward to that. Chris, are you ready to be shocked?
I am really ready to be shocked.
What if I told you Mario's competitor, Crash Bandicoot, was going to be unveiling a game on the Nintendo Switch?
I would like to have what you are drinking, because that is some crazy notion right there.
Well, guess what? Last year's mega hit, Crash Bandicoot's Insane Trilogy, is being ported over to the Nintendo Switch.
It's just, man, that's such a surprise, because, like, I mean, at one point, Crash Bandicoot was, like, Sony's mascot, you know? Like, on the early days of the PlayStation, I mean, people talked about, Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic, and Sony had Crash Bandicoot.
Do you remember the old commercials for Crash Bandicoot where there was a guy in a Crash Bandicoot costume? And there was one where he's like standing outside Nintendo's headquarters and he's like talking shit to Mario like through a megaphone. Do you remember that?
I do not remember that. I remember the commercials themselves with the guy in the costume, but I don't remember that specific commercial.
Yeah, well, now here he is on the Nintendo system.
I just imagine him like, you know, all those years ago, yeah, Nintendo, you think you're hot shit, you ain't nothing. And then years later, here he is, like, hat in hand, looking at the ground sheepishly.
Eating crow.
And he's just like, can I please have a job? And Mario's like, I'm sorry, what did you say? It's like, can I please have a job?
Perhaps you should speak into the megaphone.
You saved that? Nobody forgets a grudge like Mario. He always remembers and never forgives.
But yeah, there you have it. I, for one, while it is a little weird, I love the idea of like Sony and Nintendo teaming up and spreading it out, you know, Crash Bandicoot to a wider audience. I think it's going to sell very well on the Switch. And I mean, anything for big video game developer Unity, I'm all for. So I'm definitely excited for that.
If Sony really wanted to be on the board of like video game Unity, they would allow crossplay with the games on their systems.
Yeah, maybe this is trying to make up for that.
Yeah. Let me see. So some other big releases for the Switch. One that's a personal favorite for us, Little Nightmares, is coming to the Switch soon.
Yeah, that's super exciting. If you haven't played it, you have no reason not to now.
Yes, we played it a lot last year. We actually dedicated a full episode last year to the Little Nightmares all by itself, where we had Dave on the show to talk about it, and that was really fun. Pick it up if you haven't yet. Let me see. Okami HD is now announced for the Switch.
One
That
of my
is
favorite games of all time.
super, super exciting. I can't tell you, Justin, how relieved I am. I have been wanting to pull the trigger on Okami HD for one of the other consoles, but I've just been holding off and holding off. And now that it has a Switch release announced, I'm absolutely scooping this up for the Switch. I think Okami would work perfectly for the on-the-go, like, touchscreen style that the Switch can bring to it.
Yeah, it's pretty great that you can use your finger as the celestial brush when you're playing in portable mode, and I think it's going to work great. It worked perfectly on the 3DS, so yeah, I mean, that's really awesome. And again, one of my favorite games of all time, so get it and play it.
Yeah, you little weenies. Let's see. We're also getting Undertale on the Switch. That's one of my favorite games of all time. Justin, I had given this to you a while back as an indie arcade title. I don't know if you had ever beaten it at
I
that
never
point.
beat it, but I really wish I could transfer my data to the Switch because I would love to just play on the Switch. But you know what? Maybe I'll just buy it again and start all over on the Switch because
It will not be that pricey. I think it'll only be like $10 on
you know
the
what
Switch.
shocks me about this one though is that they said in the direct Undertale coming to Switch eventually, and they didn't even have a date for it yet. But how hard could it be to take that game and throw it on the Switch? Like how labor intensive could that be?
I mean, I don't know. Game development is tricky, and I mean, the hardware for the Switch is very different from the hardware that you find on a traditional PC. And I know the game also received a console port for, I believe, the PS4. I'm not sure if it's also out on Xbox. I'm sure it would be. But it's, I mean, all of those different systems have different architectures inside them. So it's not even just a simple matter of, I mean, you're literally changing it from one file format to another, and that doesn't necessarily change over smoothly.
Good
So
point.
yeah, so I mean, they have to make sure that everything like checks out and there are no new bugs that crop up, things like that. So I mean, porting a game over, it's not such a simple task. Let me see. We're also, I think we mentioned that Hyrule Warriors is coming to the Switch.
That is a huge yawn for me personally, but I know a lot of people really love that game, so whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like a definitive version, so all the DLC that's been released so far will be included in this release, which I'm shocked that this game really had so much post-release support that it received. I mean, it's felt like for a full year after the game came out, they were releasing new characters left and right for the game. Let me see. We're also getting No More Heroes, Travis Strikes Again for the Switch.
Yeah, that looks just crazy and weird and wild, and I'm really excited that that's coming to Switch because I know that the original No More Heroes had a big following. A lot of people didn't think there would be more. I know there was 2 on the Wii, and then I think nothing after that for a while. A lot of people thought that series was kind of dead, but
Right.
here you go, a nice surprise for fans of the series.
Yeah, fans of the series, fans of Suda51, the developer of No More Heroes. So yeah, we'll see how this one fares. Let me see. We're also getting a port of South Park, The Fractured Butthole.
So great.
Yeah, I loved when they were announcing it in the direct how hard the announcer guy was trying to not say the fractured butthole, but to make it be like South Park, the fractured butthole, like just trying to make it sound like not what the pun is.
I just imagine the South Park guys like giggling like every single time that title is named.
Which is amazing because, I mean, you'd think, like, these are Emmy Award-winning, Tony Award-winning people. Like, they've made so much, like, they were Oscar-nominated. And they're just they have such toilet humor, but it's hilarious the way that it's done.
Yeah.
And last but not least, at least for me, unless I'm forgetting something. Oh wait, I am. Dark Souls. How could I forget?
Oh man. So yep, super hard Dark Souls from Software is coming to the Switch. It's awesome that this game is actually coming on a Nintendo system. It's coming with a weird amiibo. You want to talk about that, Chris?
Praise the sun. That is the pose that the character is striking there, which I have never played the Dark Souls games, but apparently Praise the Sun is so it's like sort of this thing you can do. I'm not entirely sure what its relevance is to the Dark Souls series, but every time you use the Dark Souls amiibo to praise the sun, your character will literally strike the same pose where he'll have his arms outstretched above his head where he kind of looks like a capital Y, and he will, and you'll praise the sun, which is fine, I guess. The sun is certainly worthy of praise. Maybe it's the idea that when the sun comes out, maybe all the evil characters that are around, maybe they go away or whatever for a time being. I don't know. I know literally nothing about Dark Souls, but hey, since it's coming out to Switch, maybe I'll pick it up and give the series a try for the first time.
This is such a goofy amiibo, but also so great. Like I can see this one selling pretty well.
I can absolutely see it selling too, especially there's a lot of Dark Souls fans out there, and the ever-increasing user base of the Nintendo Switch. And there's a lot of people out there who I'm sure are like me, who have never played the games before, who are now willing to maybe give it a try. So, yeah, we'll see how well the system is for From Software's little series there.
Yep.
Last and definitely least, no, I'm sorry. Last but not least is the footage from Kirby Star Allies.
Yeah, so there actually there was and currently is a demo for this game out, and because it comes out pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks, I believe. And I kind of want to try it out because it looks a lot like Kirby Superstar with the side-scrolling platforming co-op adventure, and that was one of my favorite games on the SNES. And it looks great. It's got a lot of cool power-ups. It's got characters from all the Kirby games, like Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and a lot of the familiar power-ups that you remember, plus a bunch of new stuff. It could be a fun, couch co-op game to play. So maybe I'll pick up that demo and just kind of mess around with it. But yeah, they showed off plenty more footage of that. They're really advertising it a lot. I think Kirby sells really well over in Japan. And it's surprisingly pretty well here too. People love the pink puff. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
what's not to love about him? The series is that classic, easy to learn, difficult to master type gameplay. Like, it's very easy to just breeze through the games very quickly if you're a younger, more inexperienced player and you just want to reach the end. But if you're an older veteran gamer, then there's a lot of hidden secrets around there to keep you entertained for hours at a time. I like that you can befriend King DDD and Meta Knight in this game. So that's really cool. And Justin, I just looked it up. This game is not coming out in a couple weeks. This game is coming out this week, March 16th.
Oh, well, nice.
Yes, so you get your fill of Kirby a lot sooner than you thought you would.
Okay, there you go. And with that, I think we actually touched on everything that went over in the Direct.
I think so too. Overall, I was pretty happy with the Direct. I feel like the Smash Brothers announcement at the end kind of saved the overall presentation. Like you, I was a little disappointed with the number of ports that were announced for the system, it didn't seem like there was anything new. It was just like, oh, these older games that came out last year or a couple years ago, now they're coming out on the Switch. And it was like, that's great and all. Splatoon 2 news was kind of cool, but wasn't really enough to give me that wow factor. But then Smash Brothers at the end, that really hyped me up. I was really excited for that release. So, all in all, I thought this was a pretty good Direct.
For me, I like anybody love a nice big surprise bombshell release, but with the frequency of the Nintendo Directs, I don't really expect them nor need them to always be there. So if the overall games talked about in a Direct seem pretty, like things I would be interested in, then I would say overall it was a successful Direct. And this one, even though it was a lot of ports, I was happy to see that a lot of those games being ported are some of my favorite games. So that was nice. The new Dylan game was a big surprise for me personally. I'm really excited for that. And, Little Nightmares coming over, like, that was awesome. The Crash Bandicoot thing was a big surprise. I would say for me, overall, this was a pretty solid Direct.
All right. Well, that's the final word. Official Press A Repeatedly opinion, the Nintendo Direct was good.
All right, and with that, that's going to be all for this week. Remember, Press A Repeatedly posts new episodes on Tuesdays on iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show, or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who have rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you.
You can follow us on our Facebook page and on Instagram at Press A Repeatedly. We're also on Twitter at Press A Repeatedly. I'm at cgold113 and Justin is at oath7724. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's all for this episode. Chris and Justin signing off. And remember to panic and fire wildly at a boss when you are about to die. Press A repeatedly.